$5 million.
You know, I think why not, right? I think we really have therapies now which do something completely different than has been thought of before. And I think we need to recognize and properly value those. And we've done that work and presented that before. We also now have independent validation of some of the analysis we've done that say these types of therapies are worth that amount of money. And the reality is the healthcare system spends this kind of money on caring for diseases like this all the time. You heard the conversation about what it costs to care for a cancer patient before they get CAR T therapy. And the same is true when you think about a lot of rare diseases and the lifetime costs of enzyme replacement therapy or the lifetime costs of oligonucleotide therapy. There's actually this money already being spent in the system. We just happen to put it into one box, which creates a lot of transparency around how much it costs to care for these kind of kids.
So in case anyone didn't notice, the projected cost range for your SMA drug is in the $4 to $5 million range. Yes, that sounds like a sufficiently large number that I can make fun of it when you come on the stage. But talk to us about the ICER report, because you're not the only person saying this is a reasonable number.
Sure. So I think first is that I'll say we haven't announced the price. We're talking here about what's the value of the therapy. And so I want to be specific because I can't reveal anything, and we haven't decided, frankly. So this is where we are. What ICER did was do a health economic analysis that looked at the SMA category. They evaluated Spinraza, and even before our approval, they took the opportunity to evaluate Zolgensma, AveXis 101 on this therapy. When you look at the thresholds for typically used for rare diseases, say in the $500,000 range per quali, they saw a value up to $5.5 million for gene therapy. So we think that reinforces our position that this therapy is worth up to that amount of money in these patients. And it's based on the tremendous clinical benefit that these patients get in terms of extending their life and improving their quality of life overall. So we're encouraged that HTA can be put to good use in these new therapies.
And amortization is something that you're comfortable with considering?
So I think we're considering a whole range of options. We want to be flexibly partnering with the system to make this a reality. We understand it's a struggle. We understand there's sticker shock. We understand there's budget impact. We understand there's considerations for outcomes and guarantees and these kind of things. So we're thinking about partnering on all of those dimensions. One is to the simple one of it's very simple for us to offer installment plans and these kind of things to defer cost over a period of time. I think this will be most useful when we start to talk about larger populations where you're going to try to treat a lot of patients really quickly in prevalent pools where you want to use gene therapy or cellular therapy. That's where you're really going to see large budget impacts like we saw with JCV, right, which a lot of patients coming through the system at a very high cost. That's when amortization and installment-based models are going to make a lot of sense. I think outcome guarantees will make sense all the time. So pairing those two together is options we've started to talk about and work through the real systems to make that happen.
Yeah, and the concept of a risk pool must be something you're also considering when you're talking to reimbursement agencies, whoever they might be.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I need a tutorial from Mike on this concept because it still kind of baffles my mind exactly how it works. But it's certainly attractive from the prospect, especially when you start to talk about people who have that kind of stochastic risk of maybe having one patient or maybe having in your entire pool. How do they start to pool that risk, so to speak, so that they may plan for one, but they get three, and how does that impact their budget for the year? How can we help alleviate some of those concepts? So that's certainly an area we're going into.
I think he's got it right. That's spot on, as far as I can tell. Michael's.
I have to slip it down. I'm only a PhD, so I can only do so much. I'm not a economist.
So am I, and I can't believe we haven't talked about manufacturing tonight. But I'd just like to run some numbers by you. Mm-hmm. Let's consider Luxterna. And I have to consult my notes here to make sure I don't slip a decimal place here for reasons that you're probably already guessing at. Yeah. So Luxterna manufactures doses of 1.1 times 10 to the 14 viral genomes per eye. Okay, they have to supply a backup dose,
Yep.
and there were 2 I's, so it's a little bit more than that. So I'm already gaming the system to victimize you here.
Yep.
Your SMA dose, your pivotal dose, so Luxterna is 1.5E11. Your pivotal dose is 1.1 times 10 to the 14 per kilogram. So for a 75 kilogram individual, I calculate that you need 55,000 times more viral genomes per patient than Spark does. So your manufacturing challenge is 55,000 times harder than what Spark Therapeutics has executed upon.
Yeah.
I assume you have a plan for this.
So
It could be worse. It could
Yeah.
be 56,000.
this is the way most of my conversations start with our board. So 75 kilograms is a very large baby. So we do have an opportunity to shrink the challenge a little bit, but it is somewhere in the 4 log area that we're talking about per patient, and that is a huge manufacturing challenge, right? What we when you think about the capacities that we're currently achieving in the marketplace, I think most people would see even treating rare diseases and building up enough inventory to do that on an IV delivered product is a challenging situation. What I would say is that the advantage we had, and part of the reason why Novartis paid so much for AveXis is AveXis actually invested heavily in one program and getting their manufacturing right. Yeah? So we've invested in plants both in Illinois and North Carolina. We've invested a lot in process. Product is process in this case, and really making sure you have a good process the first time through and get that approved. And not just through the system, but really ready and rigorous for commercial production has been the focus of AveXis, and it's why we paid so much money. The reality is we'll have spent before launch about $1 billion in direct investment, almost half of that into manufacturing per se to get ready for launch. So we're pretty confident we'll be ready for launch, especially in our first approved markets, and we're continuing to build capacity. This will be an ongoing effort though, and certainly it's partially just building footprint, but it's also improving the process. We're on basically on a 1.0 process, and we'll be looking at 2.0 and 3.0 and how do we improve manufacturing in terms of costs, because we do need to reduce our costs, but also just an ability to make enough to treat all the SMA patients in the world.
And other indications, larger patient populations?
I think we're going to need to look at a couple different things. I mean, I think first is what's the right route of administration. So we're looking at using reduced doses, IT or intrathecally, in older SMA kids for neuromuscular conditions in general, as an alternative pathway that allows us to use lower doses, not expose patients to such high viral loads, and therefore reduce our need for manufacturing. But it's still on a pretty significant scale. I think ultimately, when we go into larger and larger populations, we're also going to need step changes in technology and moving the ability to gain a log in capacity, I think gets us from ultra rare to rare. I think we're going to need another log jump to get from rare to more common conditions.
We've performed an analysis where we hypothesized that the 3 recently approved drugs, that Kymriah, Luxterna, and Yescarta, reach full market penetrance, 100% market penetrance, and they maintain their current North American pricing. The effect of that on North American drug spend will be an increase of less than 0.1%.
Phew.
If 5 drugs addressed, respectable diseases like respectable populations like 2 solid tumors, a couple of neurological diseases, and a cardiac indication, and only reached 20% market penetrance, that would more than double U.S. drug spend, which is obviously not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I think we all endorse your investment in reducing those costs. Yeah. Are you happy with your current cost basis? Are you happy with your prospective margin and COGS?
I don't think anyone's in this space can say they're happy with where they are.
What is your COGS, by the way?
Good try. So I don't have a price, so I can't tell you my COGS. So that's
it's not strictly speaking true, but
at least on a percentage basis. I think
That was for correcting my budget.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, so when we think about drug spending, we think about populations going to that population. I think we can't just do these kind of mental math games, because I don't think it does justice to what's, really the opportunity that's out there. I do think that, first is, the first time through innovation is the most expensive. So we'll get better at this. It'll get cheaper. The next product we developed is on the same manufacturing footprint, et cetera. So the rate of return that we need to generate on the cost base would be, or the investment base would be lower, or should be over a lower investment base. The reality is that the healthcare system tolerates a certain latitude for rare diseases because these are underserved and vulnerable populations. And that's not the same if you go to more common diseases where cost quality levels start to drop or are more consistently applied. And therefore the cost effectiveness analysis, et cetera, will go down. And the reality is that there is a opportunity for people to make a large absolute amount of money in a larger population. So that'll drive some of the pricing decisions overall. So I think it's important that we take an optimistic view that we'll find solutions for this problem as we go into more and more common conditions, because I think that's the reality of what we see out there. I think it would be a shame if we didn't, because it would mean that we value chronic medications and older medications more than new innovation. I think we should be squeezing the older products, not putting pressure on where we have the opportunity, which is delivering these tremendous advances for patients.
So you spent a long time at Novartis before moving to head their acquired target. Your colleagues at other big pharmas, obviously some of them, Bristol Myers, it's clear where they're going now. Yeah. Did others think Novartis is crazy for this, or do they see that that's the future and it's now clear that Novartis is all in?
Well, I think it's clear we're all in. I think people debate if that's absolutely the future. I think there's still a huge research base, a huge investment in small molecules. There's still great work and great opportunity with other biologics, et cetera. So I'm not sure everyone's all in. It's a very difficult place to build into. And so certainly I think acquisition and continued deal making will be paramount in this space, because you will need to acquire the technology and know-how to make this a reality in the other companies. You said
acquire the technology. Would you invest in tools and technology, or do you think that problem will solve itself in response to Novartis demanding a solution?
I think we think about a best-in-breed approach. So we don't, even AveXis has always been structured around finding the best solutions wherever they are. And I think we'll continue that approach, because I think if there's anyone who thinks they unlock the key, probably has just one part of the process. And there's so many steps to optimize here. We're going to continue to look at partners and advances and continue to do that. We'll explore, of course, doing it ourselves. But at the same time, we're very happy to be part of partnering and advancing technologies in the community. Do
you see this is the way it's going to be for the next 5 years for AveXis and Novartis in the field, or do you see big changes coming up in the near future? What's the vision?
I think for AveXis, we believe we can be the world's leading gene therapy company. We believe we have the know-how, the position. We're building out the portfolio with the support of a large pharma company. And I think that's where we believe we'll be able to continue to contribute in a model that has been replicated for many decades, which is a big pharma investing in biotech and then growing it up to be really a world leader. The reality is very few biotechs have been able to go global in a true sense without the support of a big pharma partner. So we're really encouraged by what we've seen in the past and really the attitude that Novartis has taken in keeping AveXis whole within the company, so a biotech within a pharma.
We've welcomed Bristol Myers to the fold. Is everybody going to join?
I think if people don't join, they're playing a losing game, because this is where the industry is going. We want cures for patients. We want definitive treatment for patients. I think one-time treatment is obviously always going to be advantaged over chronic medication. And certainly, it's where projection where a lot of the growth is in the future, both in oncology, but also in rare disease. And then I think ultimately in some really intractable diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's that have opportunities here that are going to unleash a tremendous amount of growth in the industry. And the players who don't participate in this are going to miss out.
Yeah, I love the number of times we've heard the word patient tonight. And I think there's a lot of SMA patients looking forward. When are you going to file?
So we filed in October. We're trying to get approval now. We are slated for May, PDUFA date with the FDA, mid-summer with EMEA, and in the Q2 with Japan. So really excited to be hopefully launching in 3 markets within 3 months of each other.
Good luck, and thank you for your comments.
Thank you.